Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today I wanted to make another video yet again on the Visa Bulletin April 2023 and talk about specifically one category which might actually help everybody else who has petitions, I-130 petitions for alien relatives in other categories. Give us a little bit of the insight of what is happening, what is going on, because as we all know, and I say we because I myself have an immigration petition that is got some quite a long time that I'll have to be waiting for the beneficiary to even be documentarily qualified. But some of the time frames that we have to wait for, they are pretty lengthy. All right. So being in the dark, and I'm gonna scroll down to the graphs, both date of filing or final action. If you have been on top of the Visa Bulletin, if you have been checking Visa Bulletin regularly, you already know that it has not been moving for a very long time. Some of the categories as long as a year and a half, 2 years. And there are people who have already been documentarily qualified, and basically everything is done on their end and they're just waiting for an interview, and they have been waiting in different categories. They have been waiting for a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years. And I get a lot of questions. Some of you guys already know I do. So far I've been doing it every day, but I try to do it at least every other day, where I go through all your comments, and I have you see all of the comments pulled up here. I will do another video today. Basically, it goes by volume, where I answer one by one all the immigration related questions. And I have mentioned quite a lot of times already this same thing for whenever I answer the questions. This update, sort of an update that helps us with the prediction whenever it comes to the F2A category specifically, also impacting and kind of allowing us to do some rough predictions with the rest of everybody else who are in the other categories that are sitting and waiting on the Visa Bulletin for an update. Okay, so I wanted to make a separate video specifically about this because I know some people do not watch the volumes when they don't have any questions, when their questions are not answered. So this is really for everyone who has the I-130 petition. So with the issue of the brand new April 2023 Visa Bulletin, we see that there is really only one thing that changed compared to the March Visa Bulletin. And I will actually open another window here, and let's see, it's going to be Visa Bulletin April. Now we're gonna go to April, and I'm gonna switch it to March. And this is, by the way, a very simple trick to do that. You just change from April to March in the link and change the date if you need to go to, not the date, sorry, the year, if you need to go to the previous years. It makes it much easier, oops, tapping this, there you go, to kind of go to the previous Visa Bulletins and find them. Okay, so this is a March 2023 Visa Bulletin, and this right here is April Visa Bulletin. And as you can see, I'm gonna try to get it on the same level so that, yes, there you go. So everything is exactly the same except for one category, and just in one graph too. Final action days graph, the graph that is applicable for those who are already documentarily qualified. And as you can see, it is the change for the F2A category, which is interestingly, and it's very helpful to us, and I'll explain why. That the F2A category was actually the current category, and you will, if you watch any of my previous videos from way back, usually I refer to F2A as something that most of the times you don't even have to deal with the Visa Bulletin at all, because once you are documentarily qualified, because the availability of immigrant visas was always current, you already know that once you are documentarily qualified, that's it. There is really no waiting for the visa. The immigrant visa is available because it's showing current, so it's transferred, the case is transferred to the US Embassy for further processing, for the interview, for all that good stuff, where you go and get that immigrant visa, you done, right? Everything's good, everything's great. The process is completed. That used to be the case. However, as of April 2023, we now see that F2A is no longer current, but instead has about 2.5 years of backlog. And that kind of gives us insight on a couple of things, all right? First of all, we have the insight on that, I like to call it artificial backlog. This is not an official name. I've never seen anybody say that, and it's probably a little bit of a dumb name, but because, all the backlog is artificial if you think about it, because the backlog is there because there is a limitation on the availability of the immigrant visas in each certain category, right? And if you actually want to dig in to how many immigrant visas are available for each specific category, you can find that answer too in here in the visa bulletin. As you can see, for each different family preference category, they actually say here how many visas are available. All right. So that gives us, so that's already kind of an artificial backlog. But when I say artificial backlog, I am referring to the whole backlog that we got during the closures because of the pandemic. And, the closures, we have been probably a year and a half. There was absolutely no movement. Absolutely nothing was happening. So on top of already existing backlog, there was this huge backlog that was added pretty much out of nowhere because of the pandemic closures, and that's why I call that an artificial backlog. So when we look at the F2A and when we look at the update that we have for the F2A, because we know that it was current and now it's showing 2.5 years, roughly 2.5 years, we can kind of estimate the backlog that was caused by the whole pandemic closures, roughly 2.5 years. Okay, so that gives us insight a little bit further into a few things. First of all, because this is final action dates, because this is dates, the graph that is applicable for people who are already documentarily qualified, that tells us right here, this F2A tells us, this update from F2A, all chargeability. I'm sorry, I'm not, specifically addressing Mexico. If we specifically address Mexico, it's longer than that. It's about, my math is absolutely horrible, 4.5 years roughly. All right, so 4.5 years artificial backlog for Mexico and 2.5 years for everybody else. All right, for all the other chargeability areas. But that also shows us that the people who are waiting for an interview, that those people that have been waiting for an interview before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and then they didn't get the interview scheduled, and now it's been roughly 2.5 years, they are now being called finally for that interview. All right, so if that's the case for you, if you have been waiting and you're waiting about 2.5, 3 years, that's kind of good news. And I understand it's not much good news because you've been waiting 2.5, 3 years extra for no reason, pretty much, if you think about it. But still, it gives you a little bit of relief, all right? Because this finally tells us, okay, there is an update, there is some kind of movement. Yes, there's a huge delay that we did not know of. We expected it, but we didn't know of it. But now it's finally moving along. But also, and I mention it in pretty much every video that I, where I answer questions in the past, months now. Well, not a month, couple weeks since the April visa bulletin came out. This also helps us to do a little bit of a better estimation for the rest of the categories that are on the visa bulletin. So for example, if we look at priority, preference category 4, all right, F4, we'll see it's showing March 2007. Okay, March 2007. That is, you know what? I am not going to try to calculate this. I'm going to take my calculator and I'll calculate it using a calculator because There you go. And I did not calculate it correctly. Wow, 2023 minus 2007. 16 years. So according to the visa bulletin, right now what we have, okay, for the F4, fourth priority category, we have roughly 16 years of backlog. However, again, this has not been updated for a year and a half, 2 years. It's not a very good estimate if we just say 16 years. But if we go as of most recent update for the F2A, knowing that there is additional 2.5 years of the artificial backlog because of the pandemic, if we add those 16 years from the F4 category that originally was before the pandemic, adding the 2.5 years to it and getting 18.5, roughly 18.5 years, now it's a little bit more accurate prediction. And I know, I completely understand, because like I said in the beginning of this video, I am also in the same boat. All right, I have the I-130 petition that I'll be waiting for a very, very long time for any kind of movement. So I completely understand. It does not feel good, you know, to find out that, you know, to already a lot of time that you have to wait. Now you have to add another 2.5 years. But at the same time, it's much better to have those rough estimates than to have absolutely nothing and be in the dark and every month log into the visa bulletin and see exactly the same dates and just, you know, not know what's going on. Now, at the end of this video, I will give you a little bit of a suggestion, a recommendation to make it, you know, more helpful for you, because I know I gave you some updates, but at the same time with these updates, you know, it's okay, so I have to wait another 2.5 years. Great, you know, not so great. But I would give you a recommendation. If you are already documentarily qualified, all right, and if you are in any of these categories that are still not updated, but they're showing that you already, for your category, have to have the immigrant visa already available according to this visa bulletin. We know it's not updated. You know, I know, we all know that this is not updated information. But because it is showing on the website, on their official government website, and because you're already documentarily qualified, I suggest you submit a public, I'm sorry, not the public inquiry, but the request to expedite the case with the NVC, because you do meet the requirements, you do meet all the criterias, you are already documentarily qualified, and by their own information that they provide, the immigrant visa should already be available. So, you know, submit the expedited request. I have done a video on how to do that. It's very straightforward. You basically just send the email to the NVC requesting the expedited processing, because, you know, you haven't seen your family in a very, very long time. You're already documentarily qualified, and according to the visa bulletin, the immigrant visa should already be available. Most of these expedited requests are not reviewed or denied, but at least it's worth a shot. And also, you know, the more of these expedited requests are submitted based on the visa bulletin, maybe it will kind of nudge the Department of State to finally give us the updated information for the rest of the categories, so that we don't have to do these rough estimates and be in the dark and actually know when that immigrant visa becomes available. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Let me know if you have any comments. Just post them in the comments below, and you know, in 2-3 days probably I will be able to answer them and post them in the video on this channel. Again, thank you for watching. God bless, and I will see you in the next video.